Hello, everybody there. Namaskar to all us fellow beings. Hope everybody's having an enjoyable day, whether it's in the morning, evening, or afternoon. Once again, today's conversation hopefully can be generated with people talking and whether sharing here up on panel or on chat about spiritual stuff. Whatever that might be to you, please come on up or share in chat, and then we'll go from that. Anyway, I'm going to post a video in a second. And then obviously go silence until somebody decides to chat or come up on panel. Big shout out to all light beings out there. Again, it's going to be one of those win-win. Uh, whether we stay in silence or if people want to chat about what they know or want to share about spirituality or come up on panel. Again, it's a back and forth share. If we choose not to share verbally or with our fingertips, I guess we'll share with each other our silence. Could be, Crystal. Times are challenging. Could be. But then it would pose the question, what is time? Always good questions. So true, Crystal. We're always having our essence having a human experience. That's the immortal having a mortal experience. Yes, very much so. Even though a lot of people usually go into denial or they're quick to respond with a nay, but hopefully some of them will become somewhat aware and realize, where the thoughts exist. Where's air? Again, that's all in the spiritual. We're trying to use words to describe it, obviously, hence we're using the word spiritual. FT always trying to slip in the juggler. Play with us a little bit today, FT. Very, very much so, yes. Universe is spiritual, and spiritual is universal. Welcome, Naga.
Mic check. Can you hear me?
How you doing, bud? I guess the mic check would be back to you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I don't know if you could hear me. Yeah, salutes to the chat and yourself. Great light.
Anything you want to share, Naga, this morning about spirituality? You're more than welcome to share.
Well, I'm just listening. I just came in. You know, I need to know where he's at, so I know where I can come in.
So you came for front row seats. I love it. I posted on the thing there what do you think spiritual awareness is. I'll just read it out loud. Spiritual awareness is the inner realization, your true identity, if people want to play with whatever that true identity is, and existence go beyond your physical body, passing thoughts, and the material world. A lot of those physical passing thoughts and the material world is more or less for the sensories, which we can entertain too, obviously. But I'm just trying to differential the difference, even though they're so intertwined. So spirituality could be where the thoughts reside, what is there. It doesn't mean we're going to have answers for those, but
Okay. Spirituality and awareness. Okay. Well, yeah. I can agree to a certain extent. Hold on. Yeah, I could agree to a certain extent. Um, to a more simplistic way, I think we can look at spirituality or awareness uh, through the lens of life itself. I think this is what a lot of things is. A lot of this is what a lot of people is overlooked, or undermined or overlooked to get to wherever. But the only thing that could take you there is life.
True. And then it opens the question up to ping pong. What is life to us? Is it the breath of life? Are we existing within it? Do we think we are those things? Which we could be.
Yeah. So I think life defines itself, right? Because uh, you are alive, right? We are alive. So I think that defines itself through us, right? I don't think life is something you can define outside of yourself, right? I think it's something that defines, you know, um, who you are within yourself.
Well, in identifying those things, or we could probably start using many of our personas to define what that is to us. The many I ams, and then whatever come after that, as a possibility, obviously, because we're all going to have our own perceptions of it.
Yeah, I think a
No,
lot of time. But
no, go ahead, sorry, Naga. No apologies.
yeah, I think a lot of time, you know, uh, is recognition, right? People trying to recognize uh, uh, the things that they are outside of themselves. Like seeing somebody else is alive and seeing how you related to that uh, other being. So I think that's recognition. That's not that's different from definition. Because the thing that you're relating or you are aware of uh, is already defined.
Well, it's like when people have had these kind of questions, even with with the software called AI, the meaning of life. Most times or not, people will define life with purpose. They'll talk about the purpose, but that's actually not life itself. And then even when we use the word meaning, again, we're trying to, again, with the English language, put meaning to it. So what descriptural? How can we describe what is undescribable? You know, Hence why we use words obviously to describe it. The breath of life. What is it? Do we breathe it in and out? And even that, are we putting some faith or belief system to some sort of thing that we call life, oxygen, air? But for a lot
Yeah,
of people, it's about their purpose. What is my purpose when I exist, whatever in the suit, within life?
yeah. I see it, as they trying to find who they are, through the things they're related to. It's like somebody trying to confront their trauma through somebody else that had the same trauma. Now they're trauma bonding.
And again, when we're starting to do that, a lot of times to make it stick, we try to engage in the sensories. So they're still trying to bring it more into the physical. And then, of course, they'll have a thought. They might even try to declare, those are my thoughts. I said, okay, so where do those thoughts exist? At that point, you can ask that quick question, where do they exist? Well, I don't know. At that point, the person's humble enough to realize, okay, if you don't know, now we can play. It's usually the one that has an answer, Naga. I kind of want to, I'll have a whole bunch of questions, just to see whether or not because not to say I have answers, but I've had many inquiries I have in my own thoughts, or in this case, thoughts it's general. As I said, the word my own thoughts. Again, that's a declaration that I think I own those things.
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of the error is coming from, and this is where we stuck at. We in an era right now called the 21st century. It's where we think we own things. We start to impose uh, our will on things, even yourself, which is an error. Life possess everything that's alive. No one thing in life possess, life as a whole. So it's an error to think it's the other way around, that we can possess things. We can own the land. We can own people as property. We can own, you know, uh, this is an error.
Yeah. Again, we're going to gauge words. We're going to use words to gauge things like air, ages.
Yeah, relativity, right? Uh, Through recognition, because even the things that we label as knowing is recognized, because that things is already known. Some is already known. What the thing is, you just recognizing it and how you related to that thing, right? Even like Christopher, discover America, right? America was already known. That particular landmass, civilization, people, culture, history was already known, right? So these people just recognize it. So again, we have to, we have to differentiate between things that's already are, and how we recognize and how we relate to these things, and how we label these things.
Again, some of that Naga is more or less to pursue the more of the sensories. You know, to see something with your eyes and then give it a name, a landmass or whatever. That's more the physical, which is fine. I'm just trying to differentiate the difference. More of a spiritual things that we can speculate about. I get it. People are going to use words and forget that most of those words don't exist to the things that they're labeling. So whatever this character named Christopher Columbus did or didn't do, more likely it was sensory. And then he had to explain it because if the landmass was never there, meaning that we knew spiritually, would it matter whether or not we jump into these suits and then created a boat to go across the sea to see if there's another landmass? Again, that's more centuries. I'm just trying to separate the difference now. That's what I try to do on this channel, that we can talk about more spiritual things, air, thoughts, are those two things up in the sky that we're going to use our centuries? Are they made out of material or are they something else? The ones that say they can prove it, then my question would be, were you there? Were you there physically? Were you there spiritually?
Yeah, you have to be there spiritually, right?
I would
How
say so.
can you be in the water, right? How can you be in the water without the necessary tools required to be in the water, because you're not a fish unless you're a fish, or unless you're a turtle, unless you're a sea creature or a water creature, right? Then there is no necessary tools, right, to be in the water, because your very being is the tools for you to be in the water. So, yeah, of course, when we speak about spirituality, right, we are using our astral body. We're not using the physical body. This is why most people, nearly want to ignore their physical, existence when it comes to spirituality.
Well, I think, Naga, the reason sometimes is because the impression, more times not for most people, is a physical one. So when somebody does go on a journey of spirituality, they almost have to pull away from it because the anchor's already there physically. Most people are going to want to bring it back to sensories. So it's not like people want to abandon the physical. It's because so many people are attached to the physical. So for them to even entertain the ideal that maybe thoughts don't exist in the way I describe things, so we are beings. That's why we're called human beings, and we're having a human experience, a material experience. We could also be a being inside of a plant or a being inside of an animal. That's all the essence. But for people, when they do these journeys, you almost have to abandon, just for a short period of time, the physical sensories.
Well, but we have to one must understand when we're talking about the past is not physical. When we're talking about the past, we're not talking about physicality because the physicality is the present, is what we have now. This is what matter. So when we go into the past or into the future, this is a form of spirituality,
Sure.
and it will lead to spirituality
It
or
can. Yes.
religion.
Yeah, it can. I'm with you. Yes, those are memories as we're talking about it, and the other ones are something in the future. Again, those we're playing with thoughts at that point. By the way, Yano, welcome.
Hello, for the
Hey, hi.
tools.
I know who that is. That's FT. Hi, FT. Please share away.
Yeah, great light.
Yeah. Hello. Anaga, I think you're too superficial. You're too with the logic. You're not really with the spiritual. It's just like you're too with the 3D
FT.
main name
I know
things.
FT. Please,
Mm.
um, if you don't mind, you're a world of information. Please share about spirituality. Naga's going to share what Naga's going to share. Please share what you know about spirituality. This is not about what Naga does or doesn't know. Just to keep it there.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But it's like
Go ahead.
how a lot of people talk about like the spirituality, but it's like they're not talking about. They're talking about this. They talk about superficial stuff and the materialistic.
Could be,
It's not
could be.
really spirituality.
It could be.
Okay.
Let
Yeah.
them come to their own conclusion. But if you, as long as you plant the seeds, let people to decide whether or not they want those seeds or not. Because I know you know a lot about spirituality, FD. So please share. Maybe talk about air, thoughts, chakras, karmas, whatever. Please. It's not about talking about what Naga believes or doesn't believe or what he knows.
No,
He'll
no, no, no.
share.
But just saying how people get stuck on that street. Like it's all they're not going. It's too. It's too. They're not going beyond it. They're not going the actual what spirituality is because your whole universe is.
Maybe true.
It's not solid. It's not solid.
Okay.
So what is it?
That's why we're here. We're entertaining it. You might even know actually this stuff. So are we talking about air? Are we talking about something in the chakras, or I'm sorry, in our auras, ether? Those are all possibilities. Now, whether or not people believe in all that stuff, that's up to them. Let them be. But in this particular channel, preferably, I like to talk about spirituality, not what people do understand or don't understand. It's about sharing. Please, if you don't mind, FT, because I know you have a lot to share.
Yeah, but I'm not just gonna jump in. I just okay, just I will start off small, like down, like yeah, because
That's right.
people
Bring
get
it as
stuck
small as you can.
on the
Bring it as
surface level
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah. Bring it as whatever minute pace you want to go. I'm pretty sure all of us here are going to hear it. The ones that are going to struggle, they're going to reveal themselves. But even that, people will catch up, and if they don't catch up, there'll be something else they can do. So please share wherever you want to go, FT. And Naga, if you want to jump into, please.
Yeah, I think all of us, you know, most of us, if not all of us, are misunderstood, to some degree, to what we're trying to, share. So, yeah, of course, right? Some people are stuck, right, in their own, uh, whether it's teaching or whether it's their own shareholder, right? They stuck on that because they gotta get it, they gotta get that share off. So, I think I'm still talking about spirituality, uh you know but I'm using life, as the tools, as the anchor to substantiate, to establish, that spirituality, so it won't be confusing. Because let's be real, let's be honest, spirituality is so vast, people can get lost. This is why, if most people feel comfortable being religious rather than actually, uh, be a spiritual being. So there is no one way fit all when it comes to sharing spirituality. We all sharing spirituality, from our own point of view.
True, Naga. This is where people get the concept of the eye of the beholder, more words, or even Plato's cave. As we share with each other, it might irritate some people the way they hear it because a lot of times what we have is our own impressions. Could be first impressions, could be programmable impressions. So at that point, if we can actually just share and feel safe enough that we can share, not trying to think that we're trying to sell anything, but most of us are going to consume it. And in that consumption, it might challenge a person. Do I value things that are right or wrong? Do I value things that I find agreeable or disagreeable? But again, we can entertain so many things that even the word spirituality might be erroneous when I'm using it. But it's a word that we use to describe things. Well, at least I can say for myself. I can't speak for everybody else. And then we go from it. I know what the centuries are, and I use them on a regular basis. But I'm trying to see if there's something beyond just the centuries. Not to say I have answers for it, but at least to play with it.
That's real. This is real, and this is my reason, for using life, as the anchor.
When you say lies, are you saying lies or what are you saying? Lights? I can't understand what he's saying. Are you saying lies?
Yes.
Lies, like yes, not light. Lies.
You was breaking up. Can you say that again?
Are you saying lies like not the truth, or lies like the light?
Life, like, as what it is, as we know it. We don't, I don't
Like
have
not
to
the
really,
truth. No, no, no. Is it Lies? I can't hear what you're saying. Your accent. Is it lies?
Yeah,
Lies?
breath of life. Yes, not like lies and deception. Breath of life. I
Oh,
think that's
Life. Yeah, yeah. Life. The breath of life. You're saying
mhm.
life.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Life.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Because it could have been lies. It could be light. Okay, it's life. All right.
Yeah, it's good for
Got it.
good inquiry, by the way. FT clarity is really important when we hear each other because a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
times
yeah.
we're not hearing each other, or we don't realize how much
Mm.
we're projecting, and then we think we heard something from somebody else when the person clearly says, "No, I didn't say that." I've been hearing Naga talk about life, but I get it in its translation. It might sound like he's saying lies, but I think he did clarify it. Thanks, by the way, Naga.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, at one time, like at one stage, I thought it said light, like the rays inside, which is the same thing with the rays, the life. Yeah, like, but it's actually life.
Again, it's one of those things. How do we describe the undescribable? As we try
Mm.
aimlessly to use words to try to describe it.
Yeah, what we can't see and what isn't like because we say because it's not happening because if it's happening to you but no one else sees it doesn't mean it's not happening to you. But how do you explain that? Like that experience of the unexplainable, like because it's like cause your experience.
Well, experience it, observe it, but once again, we will try aimlessly to either speak out loud about it, break our silence, or we'll type it or give color pictures. But it still doesn't mean that's what it is. If I told you this, guys, this morning I saw an alien, how would I explain it to
Mhm.
you guys outside of me using the word alien? What did it look like, Dom? It's harder to describe. I'll try my best. This is the
Yeah, but
stories they have.
if there was two people in one incident, there'll be two different stories.
Absolutely.
but to the one truth. It's just the way the perspective of the truth of how it gets repeated. Chinese whispers.
Hence, eye of the beholder. I could describe
Mm.
something, doesn't necessarily, we might even use a common language or common senses, but it doesn't mean that it is what it is.
Hmm.
And as long
And
as
that's
that
how the
person's,
story is understood. Yeah, yeah.
as long as that
Of
person's
people's
somewhat
truth.
confident, sorry, go ahead. My apologies, Jackie, go ahead.
And especially when you got trauma, because you think it's happening to you and you think that situation's like that, but you're traumatized, so you're feeling it different. But someone that's not, like, you could put yourself in it, and then when you come out of it, you could see, oh my god, I saw that so different because you know what I mean, because it's just like that. Yeah. So you got to take that into mind too, when people trauma, how they experiencing and how they will interpret it, comprehend it.
And even that, the trauma, is it a trauma to the
Yeah, yeah,
body? Is it a
yeah.
trauma to the emotions, to the mental state?
That's not your truth. Yeah, it's just their resistance. Yeah, of how they're coping. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
this is why again, I like to use, life, because, once you're alive, you know, you see life for what it is, right? You see it, for example, another example, again, I like to use the water and the ocean. You can theorize about the water and the ocean how you want, but once you get in the water, you can't control the ocean. You can't you have to control and discipline yourself, right, while you in the water. And not only that, but you had to be prepared, right, to be in that water, because once you're in that water already and you wasn't prepared and you're not controlling yourself, right, it's over for you, because you're not supposed to be there in that state. You're not supposed, and the water will prove that to you. You can't be there in that state. And this is how I'm looking at earth, I'm looking at life. It requires you to be in a particular state, and if you're not in that state, it will prove itself to you that
You got to
you're not
program yourself, and you got to check yourself on the daily, or it's going to get programmed, and you're going to get wrecked. So you got to keep checking yourself. You got to keep doing maintaining yourself. You got to keep detoxing, and you got to keep, you got to keep making more room. It's like that, like a car, like a house. It's like your mind as well. Your mind as well.
Yeah.
You got to have a system, or they're going to have it, or someone's going to do it for you. They're going to do it. You're going to get programmed, or someone's going to program it for you.
Yeah.
For whom and what for?
Again, this is where we're talking about, that we're trying to control something that's already, that's already, you know in order. Life is already in order, so there is no program in life that will give life, or that will give order to life, because there is no program that man can be created, man can create, whether to control another man, that can give order to life.
Fuck, I don't know. It's 2026.
Question,
People are very
question.
programmable.
Can
What
can
reality you're
life
living in.
can life exist without humans and animals? I don't know if you guys heard that. Can life exist without animals or humans?
That was that a question?
Yeah, it was a question. I'm just putting it out there. Can life exist with or without humans and animals? You might as well throw in the plant kingdom while you're there.
uh I would assume yes, because we've seen, humans and animals come in and out of life, but we don't see life.
Hmm. The reason I say
Come.
that, Naga, is the order part is the animal, the human, and the plant. The chaos is in the unknown, which is air. It exists with or without us. We breathe it in all the time, whatever that may be. Animals need it. Plant kingdom needs it. It's just we forget that sometimes, and in it we bring it down into the physical and say, well, I'm going to live for my life. Well, life is not yours to own. It's there to use. If I love an animal, all of a sudden it no longer pops up, whatever being pops out of that vessel, life continues with or without them. Now, whether or not we coexist both in the physical and in the spiritual, That could be a possibility. Is this when we start doing that? Then you say, "Oh yeah, so I'm in life. Yeah, you're everything's okay. There's nothing to be. Don't worry about your body because it's already showing you it's going to age." But we do get stuck on those things. We start worrying about things that really, from somebody explaining to a child that at 5 years old, and once they have that capability of comprehension, it's kind of like, yeah, so plants are going to die. Yes, they are. Animals are going to die, but life will continue.
Yeah, so I take it a step deeper, to where I think life itself is also conscious. It's not only existence or in existence. I think life itself is conscious. When you breathe it, when you live it, the more you breathe, life, the more you live life, is the more you become conscious and aware. So I would take life, a step deeper. Like life itself, I think, is conscious. It's awareness. It's intelligence. So when I say, that life itself is the anchor that will take you beyond, the physical or, the thing that we're trying to get to, is because life itself is the tool, is the vehicle. To get beyond something, you gotta have a vehicle to get beyond that thing. Even to get, beyond. Go ahead.
Easy there, FT. Easy, FT. Let and Naga share what he's sharing. You know,
Yeah. People have got their blinders on. They've got
they
their
could,
narrow
they
mind.
could, they could. But again, this is about sharing so people can work it out loud. Hopefully
Mm.
people are able to have a beginner's mind and say, okay, whatever I said today or this moment, I could ponder something else. You know, the vessel's important. I won't deny that. It is a very
But it's
important
true. It's
vehicle.
like it's like a vehicle. People are too busy looking at the mirror. They got to look at like the mirror, like your mirror. You look at the back. You don't constantly look at the back. You have a quick thing at the back and the forward and around you, and you're always looking forward. All right, but they don't look at that. Everyone's always got their head at the back in the
That's
past.
what I'm. That's what I'm saying about life.
Mm.
Everything
Yeah, I
you
know.
guys is
I
saying,
do
I'm
the same.
saying everything. I'm saying the same thing about life. But I don't know what is your anchor for what you're saying. You might be saying is your thought, but I can't go inside of your mind, right? To to observe your thought, right? Unless you put them out, unless you speak them out loud. But life itself, I'm already alive, right? I'm already alive. Life is already a part of me. It's gonna show me. It's gonna prove it to me. So this is the anchor, right? Anybody can use. I don't have People don't have to go in my mind, right, to anchor themselves to life. They're already alive. This is the difference. So again, I'm not saying what you guys is saying is wrong or the way you guys sharing it is wrong, right? I'm saying I don't know where's the anchor unless you guys telling me. But in my conversation, the anchor is in there.
Your anchor. You want a focus point. That's your focus point. That's your direction. You want a direction. That's you. You got to focus your aim. All right. And that's your, yeah. And that's how you do it. All right. Because what you're focused on it's becoming. Small habits become. That's your focus. That's your anchor. Everyone's anchor or whatever focus point is different.
Yeah, this is I am anchor. Well, we call it America. We call it America.
Some people are
But
fixed with the anchors.
yeah, this was the anchor. This was the anchor land before it was the America. So people came here to anchor themselves into the truth and do whatever they want to do with it. This is why people come to life. Other than that, you could have just stayed into existence as you exist. But you take human being form and come into life.
The land of opportunity. We come here to experience and to taste, and everyone complains because you can't have hate or love and all this without the other. But we're all stuck on the negative, not focusing on the positive moving forward.
I think this is in itself is the error, the fact that we try to ignore or we try to hide the negative in order for us to
Hmm.
focus on the positive when we can just
Hmm.
be neutral and we don't have to worry about neither.
No, but we still got to focus on the positive. If you focus on the negative, it's going to keep happening. What focus becomes?
Yeah, so
You got to be.
when we focus on the positive, we make the negative become our enemy or our adversary.
I guess, guys, if you were going to breathe, how long could you breathe when you were just inhaling all the time or you were exhaling all the time? You need, it has to be a cycle. So the illusion is to call things negative or positive. It's just energy and motion. But we do have many things that look like duality, yin and yang, positive and negative. Last time I remember, the device called a car needs a positive and negative. The only thing is, the negative energy is the teachable energy. It's in the unknown. Most people are caught up in the positive energy. That's the masculine
Mm.
energy, programmable energy. As we're using a language that obviously we had to be programmed to use. If we didn't choose to break our silence, we would actually be merged in those energies. Now, I'm just using words to try to describe things because I'm correlating with so many different other things that we do. People use zeros and ones. What about all the other numbers? Black and white. What about all the other shades? You know, they try to get people, whoever they are, which is us, we try to reinforce it in our little cleverness. Do you see the glass half full, half empty? I see many things. Why do you want to drive me into just making a choice by your limited choices? Again, people use the word, I don't want to be negative. I said only because most people are attached to the positive. Now, you could be indifferent as you're using an ag, or you can just observe them for what they are because those too shall pass.
This is what I call the neutral.
Hmm.
And when you say you can just observe, this what I call the neutral. And when you talk about the positive and the negative, this what I call the polar shift, right? I think most people caught in the polar shift, where they realize they've been doing negative and they're trying to redeem themselves, into doing more positive. So they're basically shifting the pole. Eventually they're gonna realize that they're being too positive, and they gotta balance that, and now they might, they have to go back to the chaos again, to the negative again. So I call it a polar shift where you keep going back and forth, right? You keep shifting to the left and the right, and you ignoring the middle. You ignoring the neutral. You ignoring your square. You ignoring your stand where you at, your anchor.
In an abusive relationship, people take 12 times like to get away because you go back and forth until they figure it out and learn the lessons, until they realize the signs. That's how people are. People are stubborn. They don't like change
Hmm.
until they find their spot. And they realize boundaries.
Hmm.
There's a difference between change and
They cope with the trope karma bonding and their culting and their grouping and in the gossiping in their little communities. It's not a community. Yeah, it's a cult.
Yeah, go ahead,
It's like
Dom. I
another
think it was.
religion. It's like another religion to me. It's a religion thing. It's another business thing. It's just another excuse, a band-aid for them not to move forward, keep them stagnant.
well, that's them, and the masses are going to show exactly where they stand, and
Mm.
that's the stronger energy if you want to be pulled by it. But we're the few here that are at least willing to entertain different things. So I did ask,
But that's
is
just
there a
the ones that
difference?
go back and forth. They either go Muslims or they go this or they go into that or they go this. And you see them in groups in social too. They go to one group and then they go to another one and they go back and forth and they realize boundaries. They're in an abusive relationship.
And they will reinforce it to each other, by the way.
Hmm.
So knowing that, then how can we better ourselves, the ones that choose to be a little bit more discerning of those things? But I did ask the question: is there a difference between change and shift?
Yes,
Should always
exactly.
be, yeah. You should always be able to entertain different words with the word that one says. It's like making money opposed to earning money. So if a person looks at change and shift and realize they're different, which one do you want to use? In that moment, change might be necessary. In the next moment, it might be a shift. It's like using the word dying and death. Those are two different energies. The body will die, but for us, we might have to go through a death process again. Transformation. What did you do in life? Did fuck all. So maybe do it again. Now, if people don't value that, and they might think that's woo-woo, then you quickly say, just to find out where they stand. So, where's air? Where's thoughts? Who gave you Wi-Fi? I don't know. I said, then everything's woo-woo, isn't it then? Again, at that point, if you find out that's where people are at, don't force them to be somewhere where they don't want to be. That's why it's wasted energy. No offense, FT, but you're actually you're fueling the drama. Because those people aren't here. Now, if you think Naga is saying something that might not be something of interest to you.
No, we're talking about people getting stuck. I'm talking about people getting stuck. I know. This is how they're getting
they're
stuck.
They're stuck. So
And
should we?
they're stuck, yeah.
They're in quicksand. Should we throw them a stick and then move on?
But this is the because Naga was saying the back and forth, how they go back and forth.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah, exactly. That's what he's sharing.
Say that again?
Go ahead, Naga.
No, I thought you was you asked me something, but go ahead.
No, I did ask, but yeah, is there a difference? Same reason how people do get stuck. They probably did that to themselves, or they mimic something they've seen, and they're not willing to question. Mm-hmm. And then when they're ready to be unstuck,
I can't help them. They're not willing to help themselves.
Well, they are helping themselves.
Well, in their own way, they think they're right, so I'll leave it be.
No problem.
I can't.
And then you can ask them a question: who gave you those rights?
Yeah, they want to pick my brain.
No, you're strong enough. You have your strong boundaries, FT. You like to play. I get that part. Let them be.
I'm just saying when people I'm not saying now. I'm just saying in general. Well, we're just talking now.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm with you, hon. I'm with you. But I did ask a question. I got just in case, and you're more than welcome to participate in that too, FT. Is there a difference between change and shift, and how does that
that's
affect?
what I was answering. Yeah, I was answering the question to say yes, there are a difference. Because for example, uh, people talk about being shape shifting, or even entity, shape shifting, all the time, but it's the same entity, right? It's the same entity. They shift, and to take a different shape, right? But they're still the same. So now a change is different. A change, is where the state, where the state is different. So now people don't even recognize, if you are the same being, and I could give you, a physical, right, and I could give you like a religious or somewhat, mental, little quick exercise. When Jesus died, the people seeing him, right? Um, uh, they didn't recognize, who he was. They didn't believe him. So he had to show them, the mark and certain thing, so they know who he is. Who he was, because he changed, in a certain state, but still, right? He changed the state, but still, he was still the same. Now I could give you a physical. When you was a baby, right? When you was a baby, you know, you you change in the state of mind, but you still remain the same. Your identity still changed. You didn't become a woman, because you grown up and become an adult, right? You still remain, a male, a man, or a woman, a female as you were. So there are a difference, and between a change and a shift. A change can happen in a shift, and a shift can happen in a change.
Yeah, like some people that want to change a behavior, sometimes they have to shift it mentally or emotionally. But for a lot of people, a change usually comes in a physical connotations. I will no longer be hitting the ball that way. But meanwhile, people can go inwards and say, what mechanics or mental, in this case, what mental state am I actually missing? That's where the shift comes. And we have many shifts, by the way. It's constant. It's just,
Yeah,
do we capture them? You know.
yeah. And I think this is one another era is separation. We like to separate the left from the right. We like to separate, the change from the shift. We like to separate the up from the down, south from north, west from east. You know, so we like to do this separation. And think that we're going to get to the bottom of it, or think we're going to get to the middle of it, but we get into nothing. We get into nothingness, right? When you split a pizza, right, and everybody took a slice, is nothing left. It's nothing left. So when we take the truth and we split the truth, right, and we put one piece on the side and say, nah, leave this alone. Let's take this one and leave this alone. So eventually we put everything to the side and end up with nothing. And we end up with, I don't know, which is nothing. Yes, of course you don't know, because you put everything that you know to the side.
Well, some people, once you question a lot of things, then you can have nothing. You can actually maybe even get into the essence to things. I'm not a big, uh, I don't put faith in the ideal that truth can be divided. Deceptions can. You just tell one white lie and then they continue, whether you want to use the word white or black. So, but we can use the word true, in this case, patterns, to determine whether or not that would serve me as you're in the physical. Spiritual, that's something that's an individual thing. How does it serve you to know these things, let alone to have discernment? I've openly admit I choose to break my silence by talking out loud. I'm being my own student as I'm hearing myself talk about it or type about it. Other people might turn around and say, Dom, I agree or disagree. I said, I'm not looking for cults. I made that decision years ago. I'm still going to participate in many different things, whether I'm trying to earn money, using my energy to obtain it, obviously, and then getting some of my necessities for my vessel. A lot of times it's just for my wants, my lacks. But again, it's words that we use. We should be able to question them within thoughts. But what most people do, whether they know it or not, they're trying to defend it. I said, okay, so defending or attacking, a person that defends eventually are going to attract somebody that's going to attack. And a person that's attacked, you're going to find somebody that's going to defend. That's a loop, which, hey, eventually you can put that in words and then say, okay, so how do those two things serve me? It doesn't. So then why am I engaging with other people to keep it alive? That's actually trauma bonding, by the way. People that like to argue with each other are bonding, which is fine, as long as the participants realize we're playing a game. You're never going to see my views. No, you're not. They're not yours to own. They're not mine to own. I just get to view them.
Yeah.
And at that
Yeah.
point, everything's possibilities. Perhaps, maybe. It's usually the person that says, Dom, I have answers. To what? Well, answers to what? Just out of pure curiosity, to what? That's a tree? Are you sure that's a tree? What do you mean? Well, I see the object, but I don't know where the word tree exists. So how do you know that's a tree? As I got over this as a different language to describe the same thing. I never thought of that. Then at that point, the person's going beyond the open mind kind of concept, and you go into a beginner's mind. Whatever thing that you thought of or felt, throw it out the door and then start anew. But that's challenging because we already have programs running. I wouldn't be able to communicate with you guys if I didn't have this ongoing program running. But then most people use language like they use your body as a weapon. I don't like the way you're talking to me, Dama. So what are you going to do? You're going to stand up and beat me up? Then what are you going to do? Well, I'll be satisfied. Really? You think you'll ever be truly satisfied with that feelings? Anyway, I
Yes,
went on.
because people was raised, to not let other people speak to them a certain way. You know, people was raised, oh yeah, don't let no, stranger talk to you like that. Oh, don't let your friend talk to you. Don't let them do this to you. Don't let so. you growing up thinking this is the right way to be. So uh you're not gonna let another adult, talk the way they want to talk, even though they have freedom of speech, even though you understand they have freedom of speech according to the law legally. But you're not gonna allow, you're going to chastise them, you're going to challenge them, right? Because that's what you was raised, to do when somebody speak, the way you don't like.
Well, I give you an example. Now, I used to go with my buddies to a restaurant, and they say, "Oh, I like my food." I said, "But is it healthy for you?" See, this is where the likes and dislikes gets kind of skews people. But is it healthy? People that want to argue with each other, I would hope that they're both somewhat professional, or at least they're structurally bound. Where they say, okay, we're going to play fair with each other. We're going to pick a topic. It's not going to be nothing about you. It'll be about the topic. But for most people, when they make it personal, what they're doing is they're revealing it's all about them. They're projecting. Because it takes a lot of effort to get to know another human being. And that human would have to, in that case, that human being would have to feel safe enough that they're going to reveal all their little dirty secrets that they don't even reveal to most people. So then what people do is they play this game, they wear many personas, masks, whether it's online or they say, listen, Dominic, what are you? I'm an electrician, there's my one mask. I'm a man, there's another mask. But who are you truly? If I did critical deduction, I could probably tell you all the things I'm not.
Well, I think, once we step in the ring, whether it's a debate, entertainment, to some level, it gotta be, personal. For example, even boxing, right? When you boxing in the sport of boxing, you know, at some point in the fight, you rely on your personal training. You rely on your personal training, and you gotta stick to the plan. Other than that, it might be, uh, uh, what you not expect it to be, in the ring. So I think, it's the same approach, when we come to the information. At some point the information have to be personal, to how, you do your research, to or how you come up with what you know. And I think a lot of time when people realize that, all right, the way you come in and your approach is only coming to you can't give them a reference, so they start attacking you as the reference points, which become another layer of personal or personality, right? Because there is already a level of personality involved in the debate, meaning that I'm letting personally, this is what I think. This is my opinion, right? So there is already a form of, personnel in the conversation, in the debate. So now you are aware of it, and you using that now to attack me as a person is another form,
Mhm.
right?
Well, you're attacking somebody's persona. So once again, you said something that we all do say once in a while. It's my opinion. We don't own opinions. We just share them. But that's my view, obviously. To the metaphor or the analogy you're having, two boxers train at what they are, but all of a sudden now everybody in the ring, everybody in the audience, they send a high pitch or a low pitch, and it makes everybody crumble to their knees. So it tells me at that point, all types of information can be consumed to one's harm. But for most people, just based on that example you gave, that's all about the sensories. Dare not a person says, I'm so strong. I said, no, there's a sound that you'll never hear that will make you go to your knees. So at that point, it's in the unknown. This is where, what are the frequencies out there? What makes it's thought its own frequency? I don't know. I'm willing to speculate. But for most people to feel safe, they got to bring it back down to the sensories, which, hey, I'm okay with it, but I'm trying to make this more of a spiritual channel, not a physical one, because there's already enough of them out there. And most people are disgruntled because they just don't know what they're disgruntled. They just hear on the news and they just parrot that information. No offense to the parrot, but that's what they're doing. This is why NAGA people do like to argue with each other, which is fun. No different from sports. Dare not play somebody chess and say, listen, I'm going to teach you something today. I'm not winning about winning or losing. I'm just going to play the game for the game's sake. That's how most of us, well, not most of us, quite a few of us, when we're children, we just do things out of curiosity. But then we got to get driven home. You got to pick a side. You want to be a winner or a loser. I'm like, what happens if I don't want to participate in either one?
I think this is why, me Naga is Naga, because me coming out and sharing, coming out, out of my shell. I never, was the one that said, okay, you know, I have this document for you. I have this PDF, or I have this research, you know, that could help. I could share this research with people. It always was coming from, my inner self. It was always coming. It was always from what I experienced. You know, I'm not saying that, I don't do research. I'm not saying that I don't have PDF or I don't come across these things. But I'm saying I never use those things to reference this to people like, oh, here is my new toys. Oh, here, I just found this thing. Look at it. It was never whatever I came across. So I did the work and dissected and see, what I could use from it, that could better myself, whether it's mentally or physically, right? And however it can, it helpful to me. This is what I share from whatever I got. So I never the guy to reference to the people, oh, I got it from here. Go ahead and get your own thing. No, I was, from what I got from where I got it, this is what I was bringing to the table, and and hopefully, and share it with the people if they want it. They get a piece, they get a share of it, or they just ignore it and like, all right, I get what you're saying, nada, you know what I'm saying, but I'm good. So I was always this guy. This is why I think most people, I get a lot of hard time on YouTube because most people keep, they bringing document, they bringing with research. Hey man, look up this 1930 act, look up this, whatever act, look up this research. I was never, that type. I was always here, to bring, my understanding, to bring my you know, uh yeah, my understanding, what I know, what I got, what's useful, from my journey.
Well, again, when people are playing with the sensories, as long as it makes sense to them, you know, not to say that there's not a lot, but there's few people here. They have strong boundaries. For most people, from what I've heard and seen them typing, it's a lot of insecurities. They want to win arguments. They want to prove a point. I said, okay. A secure person realizes, interesting. It's like a parent telling a child, okay, go play, go play. Hopefully you will observe more than just have to experience things. Because if not, then I'm going to have to take you to the hospital because you wanted to be the one that put your hands on the stove. You want to jump off a car when it's moving. Where there's other ones that just observe and say, thank you for the one that choose to play that game. But the rest of us can become wise by just observing it. I get
Yeah.
it. People
Isn't
give
the
a lot of attention. Go ahead, Naga.
isn't the education? You could tell somebody, I'm an electrician, and you start talking about electricity, right? And proving how you an electrician. And soon as they ask you, okay, so what school you go to? Oh, did you have, do you have a degree in electricity? Oh, no, I don't have, a degree, and I didn't go to school for it. I just, I thought myself, oh man, this guy is a fraud, man. This guy talking about he's an electrician, and now he gonna tell us, he taught himself. So you're gonna tell me that everything that he was telling you that was true about electricity, you willing to throw all these things away because he don't have a degree or because he didn't go to the school to study electricity. This is what we do, right? This is what people do in conversation, live, right? The conversation started to go good. Everything in the conversation was logical, was makes sense, makes perfect sense. Soon as they ask you, okay, so how do you know? So how did you come up? So where did you get it from? And if we can substantiate that, the whole logic go out the window. To me, it doesn't make it. To me, it don't matter. It don't matter if I go to school to know 2 plus 2 plus 4, nigga. 2 plus 2 is literally 4. It don't
Well,
matter who told me, who taught me. That's what it is. That's what people are using. Now, but go ahead.
well, again, a lot of those conversations could be nipped by asking the person, do you want to learn electrical? A lot of people ask clever questions or they ask aimless questions. Why would it serve somebody whether or not they're an electrician or a plumber or whatever, unless they're actually looking for their service. Now, if they're looking for somebody that, that's highly qualified, well, go online. We're living in an age of information where a lot of this information is there if they want to learn something. But what people usually do is they come on. Usually, the best way to answer a question is with a question because they're the one that asked the question. It's like when people say, "Where do you live?" I said, "How would that serve you where I live?" That's an adult talking to somebody. Hopefully, they might have slipped up, or you tell them, with some maturity. So, are you looking for my service or something? What do you mean? Well, I'm an electrician. So, why do you want to know what school I went to? Are you looking for an electrician, or are you looking for my qualifications where I got it? Because if that's the case, for me, Naga, more times than not, that's noise. Regardless if that person is an adult, I said, no, you're acting like an adult. But again, it's about conversations. Conversations should flow. Now, if somebody's going to ask me a close-end question, are you an electrician? That's yes or no. That's me. But then I'm showing as an example. No different. If I choose to put my hands on the stove, everybody learned. As a person puts their hands on the stove, I'm like, he didn't learn. What do you mean? Wisdom comes from observing more times than not than experiencing it. I choose to be the fool by putting my hands on the stove. So these people that come online and they talk about all the things they do, back in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm waiting for them to be done. Because it's not all about them. If they want to make it all about them, read the Satanic Bible. It literally talks about how to serve the self. They don't serve God. They don't serve the devil. They serve themselves, which is fine. But if they're so secure of themselves, why do they got to tell me then? This is where you've been to a lot of these channels, and I see a lot of men, and I'm like, you're not men still. You're boys. I don't care if you're 6'8". You're still a boy still. You're not mature enough. You wouldn't be a good, not you, Naga, a lot of them wouldn't be good examples to a child. So am I supposed to beat up somebody because my feelings get hurt? That's not a man. That's not even a woman.
Well, I agree. I agree that I'm a child. I know you wasn't talking to me in general, but I like to tell people that, I'm a child. I'm not an adult.
We all are. We all are to a certain point. We all are to a certain point. It's usually the ones that say, well, I'm fully mature. I said, okay, so now I can ask a whole bunch of dumb questions. Do you own a big house? Do you own many cars? Okay, so how did you obtain all of that? Well, I went to work. And where'd you get the money from? Well, I got it from work. And I said, but who printed the money? So a child that becomes a man or a woman would say, I would be self-efficient. We're not self-efficient. We're living in communities that kind of show us over and over again, outside of living with nature, we've become somebody else's property. Sad as that may sound, but if a person starts examining it, I'm like, okay, so are we done with the material stuff? Why? Because I like to talk about spiritual, because most people, they've already lost their way in the physical. You can't complain about governments while you're getting money from the government. You can't complain about corporations when the government helps them. But people like to complain, but what they do is they live in a bubble, and yet they want to complain about it. So this is why I make it a point. Let's just talk about spiritual stuff. Because the material, we all can just go to the mall and see what we do. Oh, fuck, we consume all kinds of stuff. We worry about data centers, but meanwhile, we've forgotten about, big garbage centers and all the noise pollution we get from all the cars and trucks in the roads. The only reason why people talk about it is because the media has conditioned you to follow whatever we show. You're gonna follow.
This is why I get a lot of backlash again, right? One of the things you said is, when people ask you where do you live, people I like to ask me, oh, Naga, where you from? I like to ask them that, man, how is that relevant to what we're talking about too? And the other thing that you just talk about is, I like to ask people, what the fuck we're gonna do about all this shit? Yeah, we know all these things about the government. Yeah, we know all this shit, that's going on. They're doing this stuff. But what the fuck we're gonna do? Nothing. We ain't gonna do nothing about it, right? We ain't gonna do nothing about it. How about we start talking about the things that we are actually, doing things about? Right? Let's talk about the thing that we actually, doing things about. Because talking about the government doing this, the government doing that, or they're killing us, they're doing that, you ain't going to go to the government and stop them. We're not going to come together and say, you know what? Yeah, they're doing these things, so we need to come together and go and stop them. We're not doing that.
Well, the only way you could stop it is if you become aware of oneself. Like I get it, they give people the concept of free speech or willing openly speak, but there's no action in any of that. And for most people, as they say they want to stop the government, what are most of them really doing? They're going to work. If they're not going to work, they're doing something else. I'm smoking weed. Okay, you're doing that then. That's what you're doing. But what people are really saying, whether they're aware of it or not, is my feelings got hurt because I saw in the media how other people were living. I said, so there's a good chance most people that complain about the government wouldn't even know what it is to be in the government, let alone corporation. It's not because Naga, whether you know it or not, but most people, it's not the government that are running these countries, it's corporations. And how many people purchase all their items? I'm included. I love my drones. I like my car. I like all my little toys. If I want to do electrical work, I got to go to some big corporation and buy equipment. So it's all intertwined. So the people that are complaining, they're living in their parents' basement. And they think that they're going to change because what? Your color of your skin or your gender is different? Look, that's not going to change anything. If you want to make a shift inwards. Turn that revolution inwards and say, okay, so who am I in that position to complain about others when it clearly shows I enjoy my comforts? That is suffering in its purest. Your comforts and your desires. You can't blame sports and pornography for your problems. No, people enjoy it. If a person wants to be a different sex, let them be. You can't. Now, you could probably turn around and say, okay, well, the industry is making money off of them. Of course they are. Everybody's going to sell each other out for something. And if you're willing to go spiritual within, you would at least have something to contend with it that will at least challenge it and say, okay, so you tell me when you're above reproach, whoever. People that do any pushback on anybody else is wasting energy. Do pushback on oneself. We can have conversations with each other, but who am I to tell somebody else what to do and what not to do? Am I a righteous person? Am I one of these pompous people thinking I know what right and wrong is for other people? That's not my responsibility. If it was a child, I would say I would have to try to guide the child, but I would have to really understand that I guide myself first. And this is what we're seeing online. This is why when people protest, I said, those are aimless. Because there's people out there that it's not the government's doing all this. And when we say government, I'm talking about an entity. It's human beings that all choose. You pay a person enough money, you see that, Nog. You pay a person enough money, they'll do some funny stuff. Now, somebody might turn around and say, well, Dom, I can't be bought. Didn't you just buy food at Burger King? Well, yeah. So you bought already into the system. Forget about selling out for a higher price. Everybody buys into the system. They can complain about people that play music that they've sold out. I said, but you bought their music, didn't you? So you bought into the system. Now, if you want to break away from the system, and only then maybe you might feel the energy of truth. It will set you free from the illusion. But we're in the illusion. So then why do people use the word truth in vain, like they use the word God or the devil?
Well,
If they really go ahead, Naga.
but I think what based on the information that I got, you know, I think it's almost like the other way around. I think the everybody bought out from the system. I think the government is literally empty. We America is operate under a corporation under the 18 what's the exact year of the act. I don't remember the year of the act, but you know America become a corporation, so they operate as a corporation, so therefore the government is empty, so we bought out. you know we follow the government into the corporation.
But most of the ideals that we have are an inward ideal. So, for example, to think one is American is revealing your inner material. Because as a spiritual being, I do not have a country. I do not have a name that people can use with their language. This is about spirituality. The material part, people reveal themselves. I'm the color of my skin. I said, well, first of all, you're not black or white, so they've already hoodwinked you there somewhere if you want to talk about masonry. And on top of that, does it really matter what the color of your skin is? Does it matter what your gender is? Does it matter? For most people, it does matter because it's all about the matter, material. That is why most people fall and lean always towards evil. Let me change the word. They always fall back to the material part because that's the only thing that sensories can pick up. They're not ever had the thought, I wonder where air is. I don't know where it is. So then why do you humans say cause and effect when you're in the effect and side effect? It's like, Naga, have you ever met anybody that actually created the language? I heard the other day there's something that I was thought it was kind of funny. They're going to tell me that dinosaurs are real, but dragons are a myth. I'm like, interesting. Has anybody ever seen a real dinosaur? Well, no. Has anybody ever seen a real dragon? Well, no. So then how would we know that those bones that they dug up is from a dinosaur? See, with a human, it's different. You can actually see a human, and eventually when they die, they can actually take them apart and see a bone, and then they can make the comparison to whatever bone they found dug up. But yet they'll say dinosaurs are real when nobody's ever seen it, but a dragon's a myth. They're both myths.
I
But
agree.
we can make up stories, and don't people make up stories with governments? See, as humans, if they're so concerned about being humanly bound, we'll worry about America or Canada. Well, what about Asia? What about Europe? Well, I don't live there. I said, there you go. That person in that moment revealed they're self-absorbed. Because if they lived in China, they would worry about China, but not about America. I said, so you really don't care about the race, do you? So then why would people expect the elites to care about the race when most people clearly don't give a shit about other people? Do you see how most people aimlessly talk? And I'm being polite when I say this, Naga, because I aimlessly talk. Fuck, whatever comes out of my mouth, I already know it's useless.
Yeah, I think it just go back to started with what you can actually do rather than theorize. What should be what should be done, what we should be doing. This is why I said what I said about people, talking about what the government is doing, the evil, that's going on in religion and all of these things, when they are doing nothing, towards, contributing, stopping these things, or for the betterment, of, turning these things around.
But you're
So
talking about, sorry, Naga, you're talking about doing something healthy. Most people are doing things, but they're in unhealthy situations. The environment that we put ourselves. The governments are doing a lot of things. It's just not healthy for the masses. But then again, the masses do not participate in any of the things that are being made. The masses disuse it. Complaining about the few, whether they're wise or they're clever, is wasted energy. Most people, if they're honest, they should turn to themselves and say, am I full of shit? Let me change the word. Am I full of deceptions? If they're honest, they're going to say yes. So then why do you expect somebody else to do anything for you when you're still full of shit? See, Naga, most of us have become so domestified, like domestic to no example, that the poor animals don't want to fucking hang out with us more times than not. But yet, because the media tells people to complain about certain people, they follow into it. At that point, you know what that person is? They're somebody's bitch. And the fact that they open their mouth, they're revealing about it. Now, they can make all kinds of justifications. Well, Don, but you don't understand. The word gives it away. It's not my job to understand you. That is their job or their responsibility. So at this point, when people start talking about the government, I don't care positive or negative, they've already gone sideways. Where have we forgot to govern ourselves? Because we don't want to, Naga. And I'm being honest when I say that most of us do not want to govern ourselves.
yes, they want a one world government. People, well, nations, you know, before individual want, one world government. They don't want to independently govern themselves, because in America have every nation. The Chinese, right? The Indians, the Africans, right? The Russians, the Germans, right? The Englishmen, all the Jews. They all here in America, and they all have the knowledge that America have to govern themselves. Why don't they take that knowledge, right? And no, but they rather stay right here in America and create the illusion that there isn't enough for all of us, that
Okay,
there
so
is no
Naga,
equality. But they
I'll give you an
all come
example.
here because of what here is able to sustain the whole world. So of
Okay,
course, when I'm speaking, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I was going to say that. Give me a second. The example of one world government. A person has many duplexes and threeplexes throughout the city, and now they just say, I want to sell them all because I want to have one big high rise. The fact that people are in governments, a person says that he's an American or Canadian or European, they're already played with the divide and conquer. The people that are running the show or trying to run the show, they say, that's too much of a headache for us. Let's have one government, one world government. Now, the people that are complaining, I said, why are you complaining? You've chosen one of our division governments. You've chosen to buy Wi Fi. You've chosen to have a cell phone. You've chosen to have a laptop. You've made it easy for us to have one world government. See, people don't realize they're the frog in the water. And to complain about governments or somebody saying, okay, well, in the old statement, you're going to own nothing and be happy, they weren't talking to the masses. See, this is where humans, for some reason, think that every time they hear something on the news or read something, they think they're talking about them. No, they're not talking about you. They're talking to the elites. You're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. Why? Because it takes a lot of fucking effort to babysit the fucking human race. And they've openly talked about transhumanism. So at this point, I'm saying, listen, let's talk about spirituality because the human race has already been stamped. It takes so much resources to feed the fucking human race. And most people do not want to participate in raising animals, let alone growing food. They'd rather have the latest fucking Nike footwear, the latest drone, which is I'm one of them, so I'm okay with throwing myself under the bus. But most people are too fucking scared to throw themselves under the bus.
Yeah,
So
and
at
I
that
think,
point, go ahead, Red. Go ahead, Naga.
it's in the is indigenous to for their leaders to not want to rule, to not want, let me put it in the indigenous way, to not want to lead, their nation and not letting the people know that they have no obligation in doing so. So the people, right, will know, okay, so we need to find somebody that could lead us because we're not from here. We're not from America, but yet we're not from this Western hemisphere, but yet we are here. So we need somebody that could lead us. We need somebody that could help us to understand why we here, why we doing here, and what we need to do, right? So I think it's a big gap that they all come together, and know that they have no intention in leading the people they brought here, but yet, right? They still kept the people in the dark. And the people that's aware of that is not making it known to the people like themselves, so they can, basically leave the elite, right? Because and I'm speaking in general, even towards the Haitian leader had no intention to neither, in leading Haiti. When he realized that he had to take Haiti serious, it was too late, and he died, right? But the whole time he never let the people know what's going on. He never let the people know, listen, man, I ain't come here to lead y'all into what's going on, man. I come here for my little shit. I'm saying that why isn't it like that all the whole world, all around, for all nations? Why don't the leaders let it be known? Listen, we have no intention in leading y'all into the light and leading y'all into the truth. We are here trying to get our own, so that way people can find a way to get their own too.
But you've said it, Naga, in past. It's anchored here. The physical is anchored here. It's not going anywhere else. It's here. Whether you want to bury it 6 feet under, 72 inches, or you want to burn that carcass. So most people are attached to the physical. So when you're talking about Haiti or whatever, that's all about the physical. We are spiritual beings that exist within the human form. We're not from here. Now, people might not agree with that. I said, that's fine. But then where do you go when you go to sleep? Who's running the body as we're talking right now? See, a lot of people forget all that kind of stuff, but yet they anchor themselves with their sensories. They're worrying about what government leader is going to do this or that. I'm not originally from here. I said, so where are you from? Because you're not from Earth. That's just dry land. That's absent of water. You can call it Gaia if you want. So again, I'm trying to, and I've been entertaining more times than not here, Naga, with the sensory stuff, but I kind of want to more get into the spiritual stuff. You know what I mean? The different layers of bodies that we do actually have. You
So
know,
let me
what,
ask
how,
you a question. So where exactly do you from?
does it matter where I'm from? I know what I'm not. This is why you use critical thinking. This is where the century goes with. Once you deduct a lot of things, then you can actually become teachable. Doesn't mean you're going to have answers. Most people want to go back and forth with the ideal that, well, I'm going to think differently. I'm going to use logic to try to explain things. Okay, that's nice. But tell me when you're done questioning all those things. Because most people, what they're trying to do is they're trying to justify those things.
I
My
agree.
people were mistreated. Who's your people? Whoever that is, I'm just putting that out loud. Who's your people? Are we talking about the carcass? You
I
know?
agree. People do the same thing to me when they ask me, where you from? Naga, you sound like, you African. You sound like whatever.
Sure,
So
sure.
now, so
That's what they
now,
want to hear. That's what they want to hear. But then ask the question back, where are you from? So you get a better gauge. If they think they're saying, well, I'm from Europe, I said, okay, so you think you're physical. Okay, good enough. If you're looking for spiritual conversation, you're really not going to engage with it. A lot of people are clever with themselves. They go from being smart to clever. Dare not some of them become wise, to know the difference. So at that point, if a person feels that the color of their skin or their gender identifies them, let them be. They're having their
so,
own fun. Go ahead.
so now here's the real question. The real question, right? If there are people that are, indeed standing on the fact that they're not from here, and there are people that are indeed standing on the fact that we are earthly beings. We've always been here. So, why is it that is these beings are getting a hard time? If they are, from here, they're telling the truth that they've always been here, and these other beings, right? No, they're not from here. Why they giving these beings that's from here, a hard time, from dealing with, or telling the truth that's, uh, uh, that exists here.
If it's the truth, it need not be spoken with the word truth. So in this particular case, the example you're giving me would be like an atheist and a Christian. Stay in your corners. Don't try to prove each other otherwise. See, that's where the trauma bonding goes in. Whether they think I'm trying to prove them wrong, I said, no, you're bonding. You're trying to prove, not you, Naga, but people are trying to prove that God doesn't exist or God does exist. It's kind of like whether or not we did or didn't go to the moon. Those are games that they play with themselves. If a person is not from here, hear them out. You can ask questions, but if you know that you believe that you're from here, then lead that way. It's not a pissing contest or a comparison. Like I said, if I saw an alien, how can you say otherwise to me, Naga? I said, well, Dom, I've known you a little bit. You might be trustworthy, but it doesn't mean you've seen it. This is where people fall back into belief systems. So if a person realizes, because it'd be different if we were just called humans, but we're called
This
human beings for a reason.
this is what
Reason,
I'm
again,
saying.
that's,
This is why the question is being raised. If those beings are from here, why is it, they're getting a hard time to leave as they should here? Like you
yeah,
said,
they
all
do.
right, if they truly believe, if they know they're from here, they should just leave it that way. Right?
Again,
But
you're
yet,
talking more century stuff. This is where people say, I'm not originally from here, so therefore I should go back to Africa, whatever. No, those are people just playing games with themselves. You're here now. So what would you like to talk about? It's not about leaving. The ones that want to leave or come, whatever, if they're attached to it, let them have fun. Respect is when you hear each other out, not to accuse them. Because most people are going to falsely accuse each other. They just don't know it yet. So who am I to judge somebody else? If I tell you I'm not from here, I'm just not from here. You can ask me questions if you want, but if you already know you don't believe in all that stuff, then why would you ask the questions? See, this is where
no,
people
this
get,
that's what it's because I believe in that. This is their exact. This is why
yes,
the question is being raised. No, I no, I might listen. The thing is, right? I might not taking it, towards you. I might
yeah, I
saying
know.
that okay, you personally, you might, if I would have to take you serious trying to challenge you, I wouldn't have to say, all right, no, go ahead, show me. No, but what I'm saying is that no, I know and believe for a fact there are people that's not from here. What now? Whether I believe you are one of those people, like you said, but I'm
Hmm.
saying no, that is a established fact that there are beings here on Earth that's not from Earth.
Could be.
So I was saying, So it's not that I don't believe these people that they're telling me they're not from Earth, but I believe them. That they are from Earth, and I know for a fact too they're not from Earth. So what I'm saying is that why do they give the people that from here a hard time to live where they're from, to
That's a
be, who they
conversation.
are?
That's a conversation you would have individually. I don't give people a hard time, I'll ask questions. But the thing is, people that usually are very attached to things and they're insecure will spend a lot of times attracting people that are going to challenge them, not because they're interested. I'm not interested in challenging people. I'll challenge the words we use. But again, for a lot of folks, their insecurity reveals themselves. If I'm just saying this out loud, if a person's secure of themselves, they don't have to use words to justify their behavior, let alone what they observe. Two different things going on at that moment. So this is why when people are, the way they try to defend themselves and attack other people, they don't realize they're insecure. Because and then some people, they actually use a false sense of security to mask their insecurities. This is why when I hear people say, Dom, but you don't understand me, that's not your job. The word gives it away. But again, this is where if a person chooses to still have that little rediment, that little part of us that still know that we can still be sovereign beings, but it's challenging for us now because the energy that resides on Earth is people who want to be taken care of. They want governments, they want corporations, but yet they want to, when it suits them, to be separate. I said, you're not separate. People that are of the same gender don't see the same way. It'd be different if we were all one species, one blood type, we all look the same, we all have the same height. We can have that equation. Yeah, okay, then why are you being different? But most of us are already preset differently in these different kinds of forms that we're in. It's kind of like they give us the iPhone and the Android, but as a human race, they give us different types of bodies. It's a good game to play. I use it as a game. But for other people, it's, Dom, you got to be serious. I thought I was being sincere. Because I'm okay with being silly once in a while and being sincere and being serious too. But for a lot of folks, if you're getting pushback, it's because it's revealing to oneself, am I truly secure with myself? Because if I'm secure with myself, then why am I attracting those people? I'm not. I'm trying, more times not that guy, I try to have a conversation with words. I really don't give a damn about other people. That's their responsibility. If they want to mistreat their body, that's on them. Who am I to judge them? Now, they could turn around and say, but what about me? I said, how does that serve you? See, when people try to justify themselves, they're revealing themselves. And that's why most people join things, religion, science, state, biology. So how does it serve? It's like when you hear about the flat earth and globe communities. What about the possibility they both could be misleading themselves? How does that serve me? It doesn't. It's like talking about heaven and hell. Is there heaven and hell? Maybe. Just to get to those kind of questions to see whether or not the person can say, there's some possibilities to that. Now we can have a conversation. It's usually the guy that says, well, Dom, I can prove the earth is flat. This ought to be fun. Go ahead.
Making a lot of good points.
Well, that's how they are. They're just points, Naga. I don't own them. I just share them out loud. Now, it's like me and you ping-ponging ideals. As long as we don't own them, we can ping-pong back and forth. It's usually the person says, yeah, but Dom, but I really don't like to lose. I said, you came into the game of ping-pong thinking you got to win or lose. You're easy to take advantage of. What do you mean? I'll purposely lose all the points just to get you all sucked up with all the winning that you think you get. Trigger is usually when you give people compliments, not when you say something mean to them. That just shows a different part of them. It's when you can observe things for what they are. Just observe them. Don't get caught up in, but Dom, I've experienced it. I just saw an alien. Prove me wrong. I'm using the word wrong now just to prove something. They can't. Let alone can they prove me right. This is the stuff people do. Naga, you've been in those conversations where people will talk about religion. I said, okay, so anybody meet the guy named Jesus? Well, no. Anybody met the author that wrote about a guy named Jesus? Well, no. So then how do you know that's factual outside it's written down? How do you know? If they're honest, they say, I don't know. I said, so you're caught up in belief systems. Another believer, welcome to the club. And at that point, hopefully we can have conversations about beliefs. It's usually the guy that interferes and says, well, Don, but I know. I said, you're in the wrong club. that clubhouse is going to be in a tree tomorrow. That's why when I like to talk about spiritual stuff, I'm counting on most people, as sad as it may say, I'm counting on that they're going to be receptive to possibilities. It's usually the guy that comes in here and says, Dom, I don't agree with this. I said, then why are you here? It's like an atheist coming to a Christian function. If you don't value Christianity, you fucking leave. And vice versa. Flat earthers and globalists only exist because they need each other. They're not us. They say, what happened if it's possibly both of them? Oh, then I guess you're going to be in a different type of club. If you like clubs. And most of us are in clubs. Maybe we call the online club. Anyway, sorry, Naga, I went on. Here's the win-win part. We get to be in silence for a bit as I break my silence. My apologies, guys. to anyone out there, since No shared it about, they talked about a 3-day silent retreat, Vipassana, hope I'm pronouncing it somewhat correctly. It's offered throughout North America. It's actually offered for free. They do offer a 3 to 10 day retreat. A lot of it's a meditation. They feed you. It's a vegetarian diet, by the way. And you just get to contemplate a whole bunch of stuff, and then you get to practice how to meditate for 10 days. A lot of subtle aches and pains comes from your body, especially when you're in those postures. So if anybody has ever an opportunity to do it, I would recommend it. Done it myself. My buddies have done it. It gives you an opportunity to almost do like a reset. You know, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to sleep around 9 or 10. You're living in a somewhat of like a room with a bed in it, and then doing, I think, 4 or 5 times a day meditation. So it's something to ponder if people would want to ever practice that. It tells you a lot about all that noise you have going on in your head. So, and then you're having food with a whole bunch of other people, and you're not talking to them. It is actually fun to do it, actually. Boyle, you already revealed yourself too quick. You could at least pretend and say, yeah, that's for me. By the way, hi, hon. Welcome here, by the way. We got about another 10 more minutes, guys. So if anybody wants to pop up, if not, unless you want to share in chat about spiritual stuff, we're just going to go quiet. welcome back, Naga. We got about 2 more minutes left before I shut her down. If you have anything you want to share before I close it down, please go right ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Naga. Go ahead if you want to share. Like I said, I have a couple more minutes before I shut it down. I think Chuck's going to go live at noon. So please, if you have any final remarks before I boot you out, please
Oh no,
share.
no, no, no. I was just coming back. I thought you was still, building, but nah, it's all good.
Well, let's hope that next time we can deconstruct more before we start building again. I thought we actually did some deconstruction today. I appreciate that.
But nah, I definitely appreciate this live. Yeah, it was definitely constructive. Yep.
Thanks for sharing, Naga. Like always, you already know I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to share with you. It might come across that we're arguing, but we're not. We're just basically playing with words.
Nah, I told Charles. I don't know if Charles told you personally or if you heard the live, but I told Charles, I learned a lot from you, like I
Always has
learned
been.
a lot from other people. Yeah, I get it, trust me.
Even when we were on Knowledge Uprising, I used to enjoy you and Wayne chit chatting. I loved it. Sometimes the knowledge would get a little bit feisty, but it was a good conversation.
Yeah, for sure. 100. Definitely, like I said, I appreciate you, and whenever I get the notification, I'm gonna definitely come through, show some love or share, like I do. But
Thanks,
yeah,
man. So
until next
Naga,
time.
I'm going to boot you out, and I'm going to give my final remarks before I leave. Again, thanks, Naga.
Mhm.
Okay, folks. Another interesting conversation. Hopefully, we can people come up more, elaborate more on what they perceive spirituality is. I get the sensory part, but if people want to share on spirituality stuff, and it could be on almost anything. A lot of woo-woo stuff, wishful thinking, whatever it is, just come on up or chat and chat. Again, thank you everybody in chat. Have an enjoyable day, and have those enjoyable aware moments. Ciao, guys.